Most people find out they've inherited something with a phone call, maybe a lawyer's letter, maybe a knock at the door. But not me. I found out in a coffin-shaped box delivered to my doorstep with a note that read, "You've been chosen. Come home. The game begins at dusk." It was unsigned, no return address, just a wax seal in the shape of a serpent eating its own tail. I hadn't seen that symbol in 15 years, not since the night I ran from Greystone Manor, swearing I'd never return, but here it was, calling me back. I hadn't spoken to my grandfather, Ellis Greystone, in over a decade. The last time I saw him, he looked at me like I was an insect beneath his boot. And now, he was dead. The box also contained a silver key, an old photo of the estate, and a copy of his last will and testament with one chilling condition. To my grandchildren, "You may claim your inheritance, but only if you survive the weekend alive. The last one standing takes all." It sounded like a joke, a riddle, something made for a Netflix show, not real life. But it wasn't just addressed to me. My cousins got the same box, all 7 of us. And the worst part? Every one of us had a reason to want Ellis Greystone dead. I thought about not going. The rational part of me screamed to stay away. I had finally built a life free of the Greystone name. My apartment was modest, my job simple but fulfilling, and no one in my new world knew the legacy I'd fled from. But curiosity is louder than fear, and the Greystones were nothing if not greedy. The box hadn't just invited me, it dared me, and deep down, I knew that if I didn't go, I'd never stop wondering what would have happened if I had. So I packed a bag, took the key, booked a one-way ticket to the one place I swore I'd never see again. Greystone Manor. It stood just as I remembered. Gothic, grand, grotesque in its beauty, like a castle built for secrets instead of people. The sprawling estate looked like it had been pulled from a Victorian nightmare, complete with gargoyle-lined balconies and iron gates that squealed shut behind me like they'd never intended to open again. Lightning split the sky as I stepped out of the cab. Rain misted down, gentle and steady, as if the house itself was breathing. The front doors were open. I stepped inside, and time snapped backward. The scent hit me first, mahogany, dust, and something faintly floral. I used to love that smell. Now it made my stomach turn. The foyer was untouched. Oil paintings of our ancestors loomed above the staircase, their eyes following me like they remembered everything. I passed a mirror, long cracked through its center, and barely recognized the woman in its reflection. Then came the footsteps. "Look who finally showed up," Rhett said, voice dripping with sarcasm. He hadn't changed. Still lean, still slick, still wearing sunglasses indoors like he expected paparazzi. His smirk hadn't aged a day. "I see you're still trying to convince everyone you matter," I replied coolly. Before he could fire back, another voice cut through. "Can we not start already?" Lila stepped into view, arms crossed, eyes sharp behind wire-framed glasses. "We haven't even signed in, and you two are ready to tear each other apart." "Didn't know we needed to sign in for our own execution," Jonah muttered, stepping out of the shadows. His prison tattoos were barely visible beneath the sleeves of his coat, but I saw them. We all did. One by one, the rest arrived. Brandon with his politician's handshake and perfect teeth. Emily, reeking of essential oils and passive-aggressive smiles. Violet, quiet and watching, always watching. 7 of us. 7 keys, 7 secrets. 1 fortune waiting to be claimed. The hourglass stood on a pedestal in the grand hall, already counting down. Sand spilled silently from top to bottom, marking time we didn't fully understand yet. Then came the voice. Ellis Greystone. Even dead, he managed to fill the room. "Welcome, heirs. You have until midnight on Sunday to prove your worth. There are rules. Break them and face the consequence. Play fair or don't. But remember, only one of you can inherit the Greystone fortune. The rest walk away with nothing, if you walk away at all." The recording clicked off. Silence swallowed the room. "Did he just say if we walk away at all?" Violet whispered. "Yes," Brandon replied grimly. "He did." A butler appeared, silent, gaunt, unnervingly tall. He handed each of us a sealed envelope. Mine read simply, "Room 6, don't lock the door." Inside was a map of the manor, hand-drawn, with certain hallways scratched out in red. I looked at the others. They were all reading their instructions. Frowns, raised brows, no one spoke. "Are we really doing this?" Emily asked. "Like, actually staying?" "No one's forcing you," Rhett said. "There's the door, if you can get it open." She glared at him but said nothing more. I climbed the staircase slowly, every step echoing. Room 6 was at the end of the hall, past a stained glass window depicting a snake curled around a rose. Inside, the room was lavish. velvet curtains, a canopy bed, a wardrobe that likely predated electricity. A single flickering candle sat on the desk. And on the pillow, another note. Sleep lightly. Trust no one. The game does not wait. I turned the lock out of instinct, then remembered the warning. I left the door ajar. That night, I didn't sleep. None of us did. There were footsteps in the halls, whispers behind walls. At one point, the sound of something heavy dragging across the floor above me. I lay still, staring at the ceiling, waiting for morning. When it finally arrived, the hourglass in the foyer had turned again. 1 full day gone. 6 of us left. The next morning began with silence. No announcement, no bells, no intercom, just the faint light of dawn sneaking through the stained glass and the quiet creak of the manor breathing itself awake. I rose from the bed slowly, every muscle stiff from a night of tension. I hadn't slept more than a few minutes at a time, kept awake by the sound of pacing feet, muffled voices, and one blood-chilling scream that had come sometime around 3 a.m. I wasn't the only one who heard it. In the grand hall, the others were already gathering. Rhett had his arms crossed, looking unimpressed. Lila stood by the fireplace, eyes on the ashes. Emily was clutching a mug of tea like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Jonah and Brandon sat on opposite ends of the long dining table, both too quiet. Violet hadn't come down yet. She's probably still asleep, Emily offered. Or maybe she left. No one's leaving, Jonah said darkly. Not until it's over. We all knew what he meant, but no one said it out loud. Then the butler returned. He moved soundlessly across the floor, stepping to the hourglass. With a gloved hand, he flipped it once more. The sand fell. And then he turned and handed each of us a small black envelope. I opened mine with trembling fingers. Inside was a single card. Find the mirror that doesn't reflect. First to solve the riddle earns safety for the day. Last to try bleeds. Rhett snorted. What is this, a haunted scavenger hunt? Lila didn't laugh. It's a test. Of what? I asked. Of who we are, she said, and how far we're willing to go. We scattered. Every instinct in me said to stay in the room, wait it out, but the promise of safety was too tempting, and the warning too chilling to ignore. The manor was larger than I remembered. Corridors stretched like veins in every direction, and doors appeared where I was sure none had been before. I moved cautiously, fingers grazing the walls, trying to orient myself. I found the first mirror in the ballroom. It was tall, ornate, dust-covered. I stepped in front of it and saw myself pale, tired, but there. I moved on. The second was in the hallway by the servants' quarters, my reflection again. Then I saw it. At the end of the east wing behind a tapestry was a door I didn't remember from the map. Inside was a small dressing room filled with broken furniture, and on the far wall a mirror. I stepped in front of it. Nothing. No reflection. I reached forward, fingertips brushing cold glass. And then the mirror shivered. Not cracked, shivered like it was breathing. Behind me, the door creaked. I spun. Violet. She looked exhausted. Her sweater was stained, her hair matted. I've been looking for you, she said. For me? You solved it, the mirror. It's you. You're the reflection that doesn't exist anymore. What are you talking about? She stepped forward. He told me, grandfather, before he died, he said one of us would forget who they were, that only the forgotten could win. You think that's me? She nodded, and then she collapsed. We carried her back to the hall. She had a pulse, but she was burning up. The butler took her without a word and vanished down a hallway we hadn't noticed before. She's sick, Emily whispered, or poisoned. By who? Jonah asked. Us? No one answered. Then a chime echoed through the house. The lights flickered, and the hourglass stopped. A new voice played, different from Ellis, female, robotic. Player 1 has solved the riddle. Player 2 is disqualified for the day. And then, silence. Lila looked at me. What did you do? I found the mirror, I said. No. Before that, what did you remember? I stared at her, because the truth was, I had remembered something. Not about the game, not about the inheritance. About the fire. About the night I left. And about the reason Ellis Greystone wanted us to suffer. He wasn't testing us. He was punishing us. And only one of us would survive it. By noon, the sun was high, but inside Greystone Manor, the light never quite touched anything. Every shadow lingered too long. Every corner hinted at movement that wasn't there. Violet was still missing. The butler hadn't returned. And no one knew if she was alive. Emily refused to eat. Rhett joked more than usual, nervous chatter, mostly at Brandon's expense. Jonah had taken to pacing, muttering to himself. Only Lila kept her composure, flipping through her envelope again and again like it held a secret she hadn't cracked. I tried to stay calm, but something was gnawing at the edge of my mind. Violet's last words. Only the forgotten can win. What did it mean? Why me? The next riddle came after lunch. When the house seemed to exhale, a low hum vibrated through the walls, followed by the robotic voice again. Clue 2 has been delivered. Trust no walls. Another black envelope appeared on the long dining table, sealed with a crimson wax rose. This time, only one. Jonah reached for it, but Lila was faster. This one's mine, she said. He didn't fight her. No one did. She opened it slowly. There is a door that opens only when you close your eyes. Inside it, the truth waits for the brave. That's nonsense, Rhett muttered. It's a location, I said. Maybe one of the old rooms with a false wall. Lila nodded. The West Wing. Everyone stilled. The West Wing had been locked off for years. Even before Ellis's death, it was sealed, supposedly due to structural damage after the fire. But now, I knew better. That was where the truth lived. Leela and I went alone. The others hung back, whispering about alliances and traps. The hallway to the West Wing was coated in dust, untouched by the butler's endless routines. As we passed through the archway, the temperature dropped. Do you remember this place? Lila asked quietly. Yes. She glanced at me. Do you remember the night it burned? Pieces. The West Wing had once housed Ellis's private library, his study, and a locked vault. None of us were allowed near. I'd only seen it once as a child, sneaking in behind my mother, who was screaming at him. Now the vault was missing its door. Inside, the room was dark, ashes on the floor, a single chair, and carved into the wall, almost freshly gouged. Who deserves to stay? Layla stepped back. What is this? A challenge, I said. She turned to me. And what's the prize? I looked at the scorched ceiling, not dying. That night, the lights went out, not flickered, died. The entire manor dropped into silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Then came the knock on my door. Once, twice, a pause.
I didn't move?
Then a whisper. You remember more than you should. I yanked the door open. No one was there. But on the floor, another envelope. Tomorrow, one will vanish. Choose who. My hands trembled as I picked up the envelope. The paper was heavier than the others, more deliberate, the kind of weight meant to remind you that whatever decision you made, it would never be light. I opened it slowly. There was only a card, with the names of every remaining heir printed on it in ink so black it looked wet. Brandon, Emily, Jonah, Lila, Rhett, you, and beneath the names. Mark 1. At sunrise, their room will be empty. It wasn't a choice. It was a demand. I didn't sleep. I sat by the candlelight with the card in one hand and a pen in the other. Names circled in my mind like sharks. Brandon, the golden boy with secrets he never spoke of. Emily, who had cried when Violet disappeared but hadn't asked about her since. Jonah, who kept staring at the walls like they whispered to him. Rhett, who was hiding something behind that charm. Lila, sharp, calculating, but maybe the only one playing fair. And me, the one who remembered things she shouldn't. I couldn't mark myself. But how do you choose who deserves to disappear? Just before dawn, I circled a name and hated myself for it. At breakfast, the dining hall was unusually bright. Fresh fruit, steaming bread, the hourglass untouched. 6 chairs. Only 5 filled. Rhett was gone. No one said his name. No one asked where he was. We just stared at the space he had filled yesterday and felt the air thin. Then the intercom buzzed. The will has been amended. 5 remain. The inheritance grows. Aiden looked at me. No, Jonah, I caught myself. The names, the faces, the alliances were blurring. Grief does that. Guilt too. Emily finally spoke. Who chose him? No one answered. Because if we admitted someone made that decision, we'd have to admit the rest of us were capable of it too. Later, I found Layla in the library. She was pacing, chewing her thumb. You saw the card, didn't you? She asked without looking up. I hesitated. Yes. Then you know what's coming next. What do you mean? She turned to me, eyes wild. It's not about money. It never was. This is punishment. Ellis didn't write a will. He wrote a sentence. Why? Because he hated us, she whispered. He hated what we were, what we became. He wanted to prove we'd destroy each other without his help. And what if he's right? She stared at me. Then only one of us walks out of here, and the worst part? I nodded. We'll think we earned it. That night, I dreamed of fire. Not the original one, a new blaze, one that crawled through the halls of Greystone Manor, swallowing secrets and screams. And in the middle of it all, Ellis stood smiling. Still think you're better than the others? He asked me. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The flames reached for me, and I woke gasping. Outside my door, another envelope waited. The mirror cracked. The clock is next. And beneath it, a blood-red petal. Violet's favorite flower. She wasn't gone. She was waiting. The blood-red petal sat in my hand like a signature. Violet had vanished. Rhett was gone, and now her presence lingered not as memory but as warning. I dressed quickly, tying my boots tighter than usual. Something told me today wouldn't end quietly. There was a weight in the air that pressed down on every breath, every step, like the house itself was waiting. Downstairs, no one spoke. Lila was already seated, hands clasped like she was praying. Brandon stood by the fireplace, arms folded. Jonah stared out the window, jaw tight. Emily came in last, wide-eyed and pale. She held a crumpled envelope. I got one too, she whispered. A petal and a card. I didn't need to ask what it said. The intercom crackled. Day 3 has begun. One will lose time, one will gain it. Follow the chimes, the clock is next. There it was again, that sense of a riddle, wearing a straitjacket. Jonah turned. Does anyone even know where the clock is? I do, Lila said. There's a grandfather clock in the east stairwell. It hasn't worked since the fire. Without waiting, we moved, the 5 of us. Fewer footsteps now, echoing louder in the marble corridors. The clock loomed like a corpse against the stairwell wall. 7 feet tall, carved oak. Its face was cracked across the middle like someone had punched it. The hands hadn't moved in years. But now they ticked. Slowly, loudly. Tick. 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 We stared at it, afraid to blink. Then it chimed. 3 times. And from behind the face, something slid free. A note. I grabbed it. Time is not yours to keep. Trade wisely. 2 of you will lose an hour of memory. 1 of you will relive it. What does that mean? Emily asked, her voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, the walls clicked. I turned just in time to see 2 panels sliding open in the far corridor, revealing narrow doors marked with brass plaques, Room A and Room B. Choose, said the voice. 3 minutes. What if we don't? Brandon asked. Then time chooses for you. I took Room A. The door sealed behind me. Inside was nothing but a chair, a mirror, and a flickering light bulb overhead. On the mirror, written in fog, "What did you forget to confess?" My reflection flickered. Not distorted, wrong. She wasn't standing the same way I was. I stepped back. The light buzzed louder. I remembered a night I hadn't spoken of in years. The last argument I had with Ellis, the sound of my voice as I screamed, the heat of the fire, the moment I locked the West Wing door from the outside. He'd still been inside. I wasn't sure if the fire started before or after that. I just knew I never told anyone. The mirror cleared, my reflection mimicked me again. The door unlatched. Outside, Emily and Brandon were already waiting. Jonah came out next, shaken but quiet. Layla didn't. Minutes passed. 5, 10. Finally, the clock chimed again. Lila has been reset. What does that mean? I asked. The wall beside the clock slid open. Lila stumbled out, confused, pale. Who are you people? She whispered.
She didn't recognize us.
Emily rushed forward, but Leela stepped back, terrified. She's lost her memory, I whispered. It wasn't just metaphor. Jonah clenched his jaw. We're not playing a game anymore. We're part of an experiment. No, Brandon said. We're part of a curse. We tried to explain, tried to help Lila remember, but she only grew more distant. She wandered the halls like a ghost by midday. At dinner, she sat in Rhett's old seat and didn't notice the difference. The rest of us ate in silence, every fork scrape against porcelain a scream. As night fell, the butler appeared again. No tray, no envelopes, just a glass box. Inside was a watch, Ellis's old gold timepiece. The tag beneath it read, "For the one who rewinds," and beside it another card. "Tomorrow the past will walk among you. Be ready." Emily dropped her wine glass, because from behind the glass box in the corner of the room stood a silhouette we hadn't seen in 2 days. Violet. Alive? Watching and smiling. Violet didn't move. She stood in the corner like a shadow cast backward in time, her face partially obscured by the edge of the light. We stared. Emily whispered, "It's not possible." "She was gone," Jonah said. "You saw her collapse. We all did." "And now she's back," Brandon said, voice cold. "Maybe she never left." Violet stepped forward. "Good evening," she said softly, like she was hosting a dinner party instead of walking into a nightmare. I felt my heart stutter. "What happened to you?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Nothing. Everything. I remembered who I was." Lissa flinched. "That's not funny." But Violet wasn't joking. Her eyes were sharp now, focused. "I found the archive," she said. We exchanged glances. "What archive?" Emily asked. Violet smiled. "The one Ellis kept hidden, under the chapel." "There's no chapel here," Brandon said. "There wasn't," Violet corrected. "Now there is." We followed her down a hallway we'd passed a dozen times before. It was different now, longer, curved, its sconces flickering like breathing lungs. At the end, a door waited, stained glass. A serpent curled around an hourglass. Violet touched it, and it opened without a sound. Inside was a chapel, small, dimly lit, lined with dusty pews and a pulpit made of black marble. Behind it, a stairway spiraled downward. We hesitated. "Coming?" Violet asked. We descended. The archive was a vault of memories, hundreds of videotapes, journals, and ledgers. Old monitors flickered on contact, files opened automatically when we approached. "Ellis recorded everything," Violet said. "Every argument, every betrayal, every confession. He wasn't paranoid, he was preparing this." "This inheritance?" Jonah asked. "No," she said, "this judgment." We watched one of the videos. It was us. Years ago, playing in the garden. Then, a shift, an argument between Ellis and my mother. "You never should have brought her back," he shouted. "She isn't like the others." "She's yours," she screamed back. The screen froze. All eyes turned to me. "What does that mean?" Brandon asked. I couldn't answer, because I already knew. Ellis wasn't just my grandfather. He was my father. My mother, his daughter-in-law, had kept it hidden. The family knew at least parts of it, but no one said it out loud. Until now. "That's why you were always different," Emily whispered. "Why he hated you the most. Or maybe loved you the most." I shook my head. "That's not love." Jonah picked up another file. Inside was a list. Each day, one loses memory, one gains truth, one disappears. "Is this what's coming?" he asked. Violet nodded. "Unless we stop it." "Stop what?" Lila asked. "The ritual." Ellis believed blood was a curse. One passed down, one that had to be purified. The will wasn't just a legal document. It was a ritual, a gauntlet. Each clue, each disappearance, each loss of memory, it was designed to force us to forget what we were and become what he wanted. "We're the inheritance," Violet said. Brandon turned pale. "You mean the winner isn't just getting the money?" "They're becoming him," she said. We left the archive shaken. Each of us walked in silence, minds fractured by truth. I could feel Ellis inside the walls, inside my head. At dinner, the glass box was gone. But a new one waited in its place. A mirror. Cracked straight through. On the table, a note. "One of you has seen too much. One of you hasn't seen enough. At midnight, choose who speaks and who forgets." We didn't touch it. We didn't eat. We waited. And somewhere deep in the manor, the clock began to tick again. Midnight came faster than we wanted. None of us spoke after dinner. We drifted through the halls like ghosts, pretending not to feel the walls narrowing around us. Lila kept glancing at her reflection in the windows, maybe hoping it would speak back. Jonah paced like he could outwalk the dread. Brandon had stopped talking altogether. Emily kept holding her chest like something inside was breaking. Violet was the only one who wasn't unraveling. She walked with purpose, head high, eyes burning with the kind of clarity that frightened me more than the whispers in the walls. At exactly midnight, the manor chimed 12 deep, mournful tolls that shook the walls. And just like that, we were summoned. The grand hall was lit again, but now the chandelier flickered in sickly hues, red, then violet, then pale green. A table had been set just like the first night, 5 chairs, and the cracked mirror on the far wall draped in a black veil. The note from earlier still lay at the center of the table. "Choose who speaks, choose who forgets." And beside it, 2 more black envelopes. One labeled truth, the other oblivion. Jonah stepped forward first. "Who do we pick?" he asked, glancing around. "None of us," Brandon muttered. "It's a trap. No matter who we choose, we lose someone. And if we don't choose? Emily asked. Violet answered. Then the manor chooses for us. I looked at the mirror, the veil, the flickering chandelier. We had to act. I took a breath. We vote. It was the only fair way, and the least fair thing we could do. We wrote down names in silence, folded them, dropped them in the silver urn at the head of the table. Jonah reached in, pulled one. Leela. Lila didn't move. Her expression didn't change. She was already disconnected, an observer to her own unraveling. Jonah reached for the envelopes. He held both out to her. You choose. Her fingers hovered between truth and oblivion. She took truth. The envelope opened itself, and the veil on the mirror dropped. But there was no reflection, only light and a voice. Not robotic, not Ellis. A woman's voice, one I didn't recognize. The truth is, memory, and memory is pain. Layla gasped. Her knees buckled. Jonah caught her. The mirror blazed with an image. It was a bedroom, ours. The night of the fire. A small child, me, stood at the door, crying. Inside, Ellis and Lila's mother argued. She was crying. He was holding her wrists. I should have burned this place down myself, she screamed. You will, Ellis said calmly. Tonight. The image vanished. Lila was weeping now. Her face crumpled. He made her do it. My mother. She started the fire. The room fell silent. Jonah whispered, and you were supposed to forget. Later, I found Emily on the balcony. She looked numb, like her skin didn't fit right. I think I've been here before, she said quietly. You have. We all have. No, I mean before all this, like other times. You think it's repeating? She nodded. What if we've done this before, over and over, and each time we think it's the first? I wanted to laugh it off, but couldn't, because maybe that's what Ellis wanted. Not a will, a loop, a punishment without end. When I returned to my room, another envelope waited. This one was white. Inside, a single page, handwritten. You remember too much. If you want to leave, bring the watch to the chapel before dawn, alone. Beneath it, a key, brass, marked with a serpent. I didn't sleep. I waited, and just before first light, I took the key, crept past the others, and descended into the dark again, toward the chapel, toward the truth. The key fit like it had been waiting for me. The chapel was cold, colder than anywhere else in the manor, as if time had frozen just beneath the altar. I moved in silence, the watch clenched in my hand, the serpent key trembling between my fingers. Behind the pulpit, I found the hidden panel Violet must have used. The key turned with a click that echoed like a gunshot. The floor beneath the altar groaned and split. A staircase descended into darkness. I followed. The air was thick, like breathing in secrets. The steps led down a narrow stone corridor, lined with candles that lit as I passed, as if the manor knew I was coming, or worse, wanted me to come. At the bottom was a door, heavy, iron, with no handle. On it, a carving. You know the truth. Now choose what to do with it. The watch in my hand buzzed. Not ticked, buzzed. The door swung open. Inside was a chamber lined with mirrors. Every wall reflected me, and not me. Versions of myself, younger, older, furious, grieving. In one, I saw myself setting fire to a room. In another, holding hands with Ellis as he whispered into my ear. Each version blinked at a different rhythm. Each one knew something I didn't. In the center of the room stood a table with a journal. It had my name on it. I opened it. Day 1. I arrived at Greystone and met the others. Ellis is dead. The will is strange. Day 2. Violet disappeared. I solved the mirror. Red is gone. Day 3. The clock spoke. Layla remembered. The archive lies beneath the chapel. Each page recorded exactly what had happened, until I reached the final page. It was blank, and beneath the journal, a pen. Write the end you want. I stared at the line. My heart thundered. This was the final test. I could write anything. A way out. A name. A truth. I hesitated. Because whatever I wrote would become real. And once ink touched that page, there was no going back. I stepped away from the journal and walked the room again. One of the mirrors flickered. In it, I saw Violet watching me through a cracked window. Another showed Jonah burning papers in the library. And one hidden in a corner showed me bleeding. I turned away. I'm not a puppet, I whispered. You don't get to write my ending, Ellis. The walls shook. The mirrors trembled. And the journal closed on its own. I woke up on the floor of the chapel. The serpent key was gone. The watch was broken, and outside, dawn had broken. I staggered to my feet, heart still pounding. In the hallway, the others were waiting. You went down, Violet said. Did you write it? I shook my head. I chose not to. Then it's not over, Brandon said. No, I said, but now we choose together. That day, we gathered in the grand hall. No riddles, no intercoms, just us. Emily spoke first. If this is a game, we stop playing. And if it's not, Jonah asked, then we burn it down, I said. Lila looked up, for good this time. We tore apart the dining room, found the wires, the cameras, the speakers hidden behind the portraits. Violet located the main terminal in the east wing. We destroyed it. Every trace of Ellis's voice, every eye watching us. By sunset, the manor was quiet, really quiet, not dead, but free. The quiet didn't last. For a while, we lived in the illusion of victory. We slept through the night. We ate together. We even laughed nervously, lightly, like people emerging from a cave, afraid of sunlight but craving it just the same. Violet took over what had once been the study. She cataloged what was left of the tapes and files, burning what she called legacy traps. Lila spent long hours in the West Wing, sitting in silence. Jonah started writing poetry, he claimed. But we all knew it was therapy. Brandon grew distant, quieter every day, and Emily, she drifted like a sleepwalker, never truly present. And me, I explored. Every hidden door, every sealed hallway, every forgotten passage. The manor still breathed, still shifted. Some rooms changed overnight. A hallway that led to the dining room now led to the greenhouse. Time didn't move the way it should. That's when I realized we hadn't won. We had only survived the first act. It began again on the 7th night. The grandfather clock, long silent, ticked. Just once. But I heard it. So did Lula. We met in the foyer. You felt it? She asked. I nodded. It's not over. We summoned the others, but Emily never showed. We found her in the music room. She was standing, eyes wide, hand clutching her throat, frozen. On the mirror beside her, written in condensation, you didn't choose, so now we choose for you. We tried everything. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink. Her heart still beat, but she was trapped in herself, a living echo. Brandon broke first. This is Ellis. This is his failsafe. We were never meant to leave. Jonah shook his head. No, this isn't him. This is something worse. We buried Emily that night, not in the ground, but in the greenhouse, among the roses. She was still alive, technically, breathing, but gone. The house had taken her. After that, none of us trusted silence. We spoke constantly, even if we said nothing. We slept in shifts. No one went anywhere alone. Then the journal reappeared. In my room, same blank page. Same pen. Same weight. Write the end you want. Only this time, a second note. If you don't, we will. I didn't touch it, but I didn't sleep either. Violet discovered the new tunnel 2 days later. Behind the wine cellar, past a wall that shouldn't have existed. It led deeper than the archive, deeper than the chapel, a staircase that spiraled into bedrock. We took torches. The path was carved from obsidian, smooth and glistening, walls etched with names, ours, our parents, grandparents. At the bottom, a chamber. Circular, empty, and on the far wall, a mural. A tree, its roots tangled with skulls. Above it, the greystone crest, and the words, "The final heir returns." What does it mean? Jonah asked. It means, Violet said slowly, someone's still missing. Who? Lila asked. Violet turned to me. You? I laughed. Then I realized she wasn't joking. She pulled a file from her coat, one she had kept hidden. Inside, birth records, diaries, a single photograph of Ellis holding a baby, not me. Another girl. You weren't the first, Violet said. You were the replacement. The room spun. What happened to her? I whispered. She died, Violet said. Or so they said. But this house, it remembers everything. The mural shifted. One of the skulls blinked. We ran. Back to the surface. Back to light. But the house had changed. Doors sealed. Windows bricked. The air was thick again, too thick. And from the speakers we'd destroyed came a whisper. The air must ascend. I felt it then. The pull. The manor wanted me, not as a guest, as its keeper. That night, I returned to the chapel alone. I sat beneath the shattered stained glass, and I asked it quietly, bitterly, "What do you want from me?" And the walls answered, "To remember, to rewrite, to repeat." I could feel Ellis in the bones of the place, not alive, not conscious, but present, like a stain that wouldn't lift. And beneath it all, a whisper I hadn't heard before. A child's voice? "Help me." The original heir. She wasn't dead. She was trapped, and the house wanted me to take her place. Or free her. And I had to choose. I didn't tell the others immediately. Some truths are too heavy to carry with company, especially when every hallway listens and every wall remembers. But I couldn't keep it buried forever. The original heir, the child Ellis held in the photograph, was still alive, somewhere inside the house, or beneath it, or within it. I didn't know anymore where the lines between place and person began or ended. The next morning, I asked Violet to come with me. We returned to the mural chamber, this time with floodlights, rope, and the conviction that someone was buried deeper. Jonah insisted on joining. Brandon did too, though he barely said a word. Lila stayed behind. She hadn't been the same since her mother's memory had returned. We descended the obsidian tunnel once more. This time we looked closer. There was a seam in the floor, a circle barely perceptible, a trapdoor. The greystone crest was its handle. We pulled it open. Beneath was only darkness. But we went in. The chamber below was silent. Not quiet, silent. A void where even the sound of our breath seemed to vanish. The walls pulsed faintly with a bioluminescent glow, revealing symbols I didn't recognize, runic, ancient, layered like scars. And then we saw her. She was floating, encased in glass. A girl no older than 6, dark hair, pale skin, eyes closed, not breathing, but not dead, suspended, preserved. The original heir. "She's been here all along," Violet whispered, like a backup memory. Jonah circled the glass, or a lock, a seal. "On what?" I asked. He looked at me. "You." That's when the lights failed. All of them. Floodlights, torches, even our phones. Darkness swallowed us. And in the black a sound. A heartbeat. No, not one. 2. One slow and ancient, one fast and terrified. Then the whisper returned. "Only one can stay." I reached out instinctively. My hand found the glass. It was warm, and inside her eyes opened. Not childlike, not innocent, knowing, old. And she smiled. When the lights returned, Violet was on the floor. Jonah was bleeding from his nose. Brandon had vanished. I stood alone before the glass. And the girl, the heir, was awake. But she wasn't alone in there. I saw flashes, memories not mine, Ellis's hand, my mother's scream, fire, screaming, repetition, over and over and over. "Why?" I whispered. The girl pressed her palm to the glass. And I understood. She wasn't the curse. She was the prisoner. Ellis had trapped her here, so his cycle could continue. The house wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by his intention, and it had used me to bring her back to the surface, because she couldn't escape alone. But I could break the seal. We dragged Violet back up the tunnel. Jonah followed in silence, too shaken to speak. Lila met us at the top, eyes wide. "Where's Brandon?" I shook my head. Then I told them everything. The girl. The seal. The choice. I could free her, but I didn't know what that would unleash. Or I could leave her and become what Ellis had groomed me to be. The next cycle. The new keeper. Jonah finally spoke. "You already know what you're going to do." I nodded. I was going back down. Alone. That night I wrote a single line in the journal. She remembers. And I took the serpent key. In the watch. And I returned to the chamber. The girl was waiting. She blinked slowly as I approached, her eyes never leaving mine. There was a switch on the pedestal beside her. Simple. Mechanical. Final. I pressed it, and the glass hissed. Steam spilled into the room. The seal broke. She stepped forward. And then everything went dark. I woke on the chapel floor. My breath was shallow, and my hands ached with cold. The girl was gone. The chamber below was sealed again, stone grown over steel, as if the house had swallowed her back up. But I knew better. She was free. I stood slowly, the watch still in my hand, its face cracked, the second hand spinning backward. Outside the chapel, the manor was alive. Not metaphorically, Literally. Walls shifted, paintings blinked, the marble floor rippled like water. The others met me in the foyer. Lila with wild eyes, Jonah with dried blood beneath his nose. Violet stood stiffly beside them, unsure if she was real. "Where is she?" Lila asked. "Gone," I said, but something stayed behind. Then we heard it, a child's laughter. It echoed from the ballroom, from the library, from everywhere. We ran. Doors slammed around us, windows shattered outward. A grandfather clock exploded in a storm of jeers. "She was the seal," Violet shouted. "Now the memory's loose." "Whose memory?" Jonah cried. "Ellis's," I said, "all of it." The house wasn't just haunted by him. It was him, and now he remembered everything. The ceiling above the great hall tore open like paper. From it descended a form, not flesh, but thought, a shape stitched from shadow and flame. Ellis's voice spilled from every speaker, though none were intact. "I built this place to last forever, and now you've given it breath." He wasn't speaking to us. He was speaking to her. The girl. She stood at the top of the stairs. No longer 6. Now, ageless. Eyes like voids, hands glowing with light. "You used me," she said to the air. "You made me forget. You were my legacy. I was your cage." And she raised her hand. The house screamed. Rooms imploded. Fire licked across the velvet curtains. The air turned metallic. Portraits burned from the inside out. The mural in the chapel cracked, then crumbled, revealing a tunnel none of us had ever seen. I grabbed the others. "We run. Now." We didn't argue. We took the tunnel. Behind us, the manor fell apart. Above us, the mountain shook. The girl's voice followed us. "No more heirs, no more cycles, no more forgetting." And Ellis's voice fractured. "You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back." "I'd rather die," she replied. And then silence. We emerged from the tunnel into daylight. Real daylight. The manor was gone. Not collapsed, not burned. Gone. Only a crater remained. Silent, still, erased. The watch in my hand stopped ticking, and then crumbled to dust. Violet stared at the horizon. Jonah fell to his knees. Lila cried without sound. "What happens now?" she asked. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. The house remembered, and so would we. Forever. It took months to reclaim our lives. We scattered across the country, each of us chasing a kind of quiet we once took for granted. Lila went north, back to the coast where her mother once lived, now trying to find pieces of herself in the tide. Jonah returned to the city, teaching poetry to students who would never know what he had survived. Violet disappeared entirely, sending a single postcard with no return address. The archive is still breathing, but I've locked it tighter this time. As for me, I stayed moving. Never in one place too long. I stopped answering numbers I didn't recognize, I didn't write, I didn't look back. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I still hear the tick of that broken watch, or feel the eyes of the house watching me from the shadow of a tree, or the far end of a hallway I thought I was alone in. The girl, the heir, hasn't appeared again. Maybe she's free now, or maybe she's waiting. All I know is this. Ellis Greystone built more than a house. He built a memory that won't die. And though we walked away from the ruins, we carried its weight in our blood, our dreams, our silence. There are no more heirs, but the will lives on. Because some legacies don't need ink to be written. They write themselves, in those of us left behind. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good twist. Tap the notification bell so you never miss another story that blurs the line between memory and nightmare. Thanks for listening, and remember, some doors are better left unopened.